Hello everybody. Today we're filming our little introduction of the 2018 vintage, like we do every year on a release of a new vintage. And I'll first start talking about the weather a little bit because that's so important for us. It's what will determine the differences between the wines every vintage. And 2018, after a scorching hot 17, was a very mild vintage. It didn't rain a lot, but it wasn't too dry. We had most of our rain though in March and early April, which filled our soils with soil that the plant can use at the beginning of the growing season. So it wasn't too bad. But I think the greatest difference is what we call the growing degree days. We calculate the temperature, we add the temperature every day that's above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And it was actually the lowest in the last 5 years, since 2013. So it was a relatively cool vintage with very few heat spikes, which happened only in August a little bit. And up here on Kitoko Vineyards on Atlas Peak, we often have breezes that come from the bay that cools the weather. So our heat spikes are never as strong as in the valley floor. So yes, we had a few days of heat, but nothing dramatic. And all this means that we had to just let the fruit hang in there on the vines to go through their natural process and go through that softening that they go through. And this was a very late harvest. It was one of my latest harvests up here. I think the last pick was the 29th of October. And so that means when you let the berries hang for a long time, that you end up having rich plush wines with soft tannins. Let's try the Pawa. When I taste this wine, I think red. It's a lot of red fruit, a lot of cranberry, a lot of raspberry, but you have also some plum and some fresher notes of licorice and a little bit of chocolate that comes from the barrels. The wine is medium bodied. It's very smooth, very balanced, has a lot of freshness to it. It's very lively. And again, you have a lot of raspberry character that comes through on the finish. There's a very slight dryness on the finish that will get polished through time. But it has a very juicy finish. It keeps on giving you flavors. It's very long. And at the end, you have a little bit of caramel melded with the raspberry. So now we are going to taste the Witha. And the Witha is the blend of the Coombsville block called Upstream that I also farm. And the rest is from up here on Atlas Peak. So the composition of this wine is simpler because the lots worked well and easily together. It's 69% from the north face block, which is the block at the entrance with the very steep slopes. That tends to bring a little more freshness. It's a little cooler because it gets only the sun from the morning and less in the afternoon. And then the rest of it is 31% from Upstream. And so the north face was picked the 21st of October and the upstream the 29th of October. And the barrel regimen was 61.5% new, 15.4% once used, and the rest was twice used. I could put more new oak in this wine because it's a denser wine, it's a richer wine, and it could absorb the tannins from that the new oak brings to the wines. This is a darker wine than the Pawa, but still, I think it's a marker of the character. There's still a lot of red fruit in it, but you have very distinct cola notes that come through. Instead of just pure raspberry, you have black raspberry and some blackberry, but you have some very interesting herbal notes that bring a sappy character, and there's a little bit of camphor, a little bit of mint, and a little bit of coffee on the nose also that comes from the barrels. This wine is denser than the Pawa, which is kind of normal. It's richer, it's softer, it's a plush wine. It doesn't have any angularity, it's very round and very soft. And on the finish, you get that raspberry, you get blackberry, and a very long coffee finish. And then we are now going to try the Kitoko vineyards, which is 100% the fruit from my vineyard on as I speak. This is Kitoko Vineyards is the blend of two blocks. The biggest portion was picked in two parts from different areas of the Valley Block, which is the biggest parcel that I have. It's the upper corner of the block, farther north, and it is a lower corner closer to the ponds. There's enough difference between the two that it makes different wines, but it was picked, both were picked the 29th of October. And then the remaining 40% came from Block F or Finger, which is the one that surrounds the ponds, those short, steep rows that are next to the ponds. Because it is a bigger, richer wine, more dense, it could take more new oak. And so this one is 69% new oak, 15.4% once used, and the rest is twice used barrels. And it's a very rich and dense wine. Again, you have a lot of red fruit, some strawberry, some raspberry, but you also have some more delicate notes of violet, with herbal hints of mint and camphor. There's a sense of richness on the nose of this wine. And some darkness. There's something that pulls you down into the earth, which I often attribute to the Finger block. It's a block that typically ends up in the higher end blends. It's a very rich, very plush, very soft wine because it was picked late, the 29th of October. And so the tannins and the berries had time to really soften and be very round. There's no angularity whatsoever in this wine. It's just very easygoing. It's like a tapestry of very fine tannins. it coats your mouth completely. I mean, throughout, with very, very finely grained tannins. The finish is also very long, and it keeps on. It's kind of juicy. It keeps on bringing flavor back once you've swallowed or spit. It keeps giving you flavors of dark berries, and it's mixed with espresso notes that come from the barrels. And again, the tannins are very fine. So I hope you enjoy them as much as I do now, and as much as I enjoyed making them. And so I look forward to having you over here.